Now, also in this MIPS, we have the something called the syscall services or the some functions. So this MIPS comes with some built-in functions to print something, to print output, or to get input from the user. So how it works is that whenever we want to call the syscall, first we have to call that function. Okay, so we have to call the function. And if you remember at the beginning, we said that certain registers are used for the as arguments to pass the arguments to the function, and then some of the registers are used to get the value from the output from the function. Okay, so usually the v0 is used to the as the output from that function. Okay, so first we're gonna load the service number in register. So service number means later we're gonna see the different functions, they have their own dedicated number. So whenever we call that not function, we're gonna refer to that function by its number. Okay, and then we're gonna pass the arguments to that function, and then we call the syscall instruction. So when we call the syscall instruction, it will execute that function and give us some output. Okay, so let's look at this example here. Okay, I'm going to show this example. But before, let's look at the syscall. These are the sum of the functions. So let me show the simple example. So we have again, we don't have the data part. We have only the instruction part. So look at what I'm doing here. So first, let's divide it into two parts. So first, I'm loading the 25 into register T0. Okay, so the first part, I'm loading the integer 25 into the T0. Okay, next what I'm doing is I'm adding the okay, so this is the interesting part. So what I'm doing is I'm adding the 20 to the 25. So this is addition, add immediate. And then I'm storing the value inside the A0. Why A0? Because this is the value that we want to pass to the function. So the function, the next we're going to call the function. In this case, we are calling the function called the V01. What is 1? 1 is, this is service number, print integer. So whenever we call the V0, this is a V0 to call the function with a 1, it means that we want to print the integer. So right now we are calling for this function. So this function, again, the print integer function. So when we call this function, it will take the value inside the register A0 and print the result at the this bottom output. Okay, so at the bottom. So the syscall, when we call the syscall, it will actually execute this function. Okay, so let's run this program again. So the first line we execute, and as you can see now the value inside the T0 is equal to 19. Again, this is in a hexadecimal form, 19. So next we do the addition. Okay, so we do the 25 plus 20, which is equal to 45. We execute this, and the result is stored inside the A0. So now the A0 is equal to 2D. So this 2D is again the 45 in decimal, right, in hexadecimal. Now we call the function. This function will print the result to the console here at the bottom. So I execute this line again. I click execute. Okay, and I call the function. So I call the function. As you can see, now the result is here, 45. Okay, so this is how we're going to call the function. And these are the different functions. So print integer, print float, print double, print string. So later we're going to see most of the times we're going to use these two for our programs. Print integer and then the print string. But then we have also we can get the input from the user using this read integer, read float, read double, and read string functions. So next time when we call the function, for example, instead of the liv01, we can call, for example, liv04. In this case, we can actually print the string. Okay, but right now, if I use, for example, if I use here v04, what will happen? Let's see. If I execute this one, you can see that this is error. Why? Because instead of passing the string here, we are passing the number. So we are passing the integer here, right? So in this case, we're gonna have to change it to the 1. Now, finally, let's write our first hello world program, right? So far we are just trying the different instructions. So let's write the hello world program, because this is the first program that most of the developers, they write when they first learn the certain language. Okay, so I already have the code here. In our data part, I'm creating the label for this string. So this string is ASCII Z, and it says the hello world here. Okay, so this is my message. Now, what I'm doing is I'm loading the address of this message to the A0. Okay, so register A0. If you remember, again, the A0 is used to pass the value to the function. So this is the argument 0, and it's equal to the address, not the data itself, it's equal to address of this message. Okay. Next, I'm calling this function liv04. So this 4 is actually the print string function here. Print string function, and I'm passing this print string function automatically will take the value of the A0, and then it will print it to the console below. And then I have another function here. So this function is actually if we go back to our program, this is just the exit function. Okay, so whenever we call this, our program will exit. Okay, so I hope you understand. This is a function. We're calling the function print string, and syscall will actually execute that function. Next, we are calling the function called exit, and syscall will execute that function. Let's run the program. Save. So first, we're gonna read the address of my message. By the way, as soon as I click the assemble, you can see the data is already inside the memory. I didn't execute the program yet, but my data is already inside the memory. So if I read this ASCII code, you can see that this is a hello world message here, right? So this is a hello world message inside the register. Inside the memory, not the register. So, but when I click the first, when I execute the first line of my program, if I execute, you can see there, for example, in this case, the A0 holds the address of this data. Address is 1001.000. Same is here. So this register now holds the value of this address. Okay. So now I am calling for this function. So this function will take the value of this address 10001, and it will print it in the console. So let me clear the console first. Okay, let me execute. I will keep syscall will execute the function, and as you can see here, we have the hello world message. Next, I'm calling for the next function, which is the exit function. I click this function, execute, and it says the program is finished running. Okay, so this is our first hello world program.